got to build strong relationships. And if you're just looking at sales as a transactional opportunity, well, then it's going to be transactional and you're not going to build a true business. So the first thing first is like, man, you got to be relational. What's going on, guys? It is Eli Storr here, host of Sell the Truth podcast. Man, I'm so happy that you joined me here for episode 2. At Sell the Truth, we put relationships first. We trust the process, and we are focused on a long-term time horizon. In this episode, I really wanted to dive into a little bit of my background, how I got here. And just kind of give you guys some context of, how you could follow a similar process as well. There's a lot of things that I've done right. There's a lot of things that I've done wrong. Ultimately I've had really great mentors who have helped, push me in the right direction. I've, stumbled upon a great opportunity, but first I was putting myself out there in a way of like, listen, I'm here. I'm open to whatever opportunity presents itself. And, that's what happened a handful of years ago, so almost 7 years ago now. So let me take you back a little bit. 7 years ago, I was living in Wisconsin. I was, 18 years old. I was actually working at the YMCA making $9 an hour, and probably $8.50 even, working the front desk. And ultimately I, walked into a seal coating and asphalt maintenance company. And just happened to stumble upon and meet Brian Hess, Mike Hugiem, and the owner of that company as well at Asphalt Associates. At the time, I knew a buddy. I had a buddy who seal coated driveways. He made, $15 an hour, $16 an hour, something like that. And again, at the time, I was making $9 or $8 an hour at the YMCA. So my thought process was, well, I can literally double my income by putting myself out there, doing a laborious job. As soon as I turned 18, I walked in and put myself out there, and I met Brian Hess. So at the time, Brian actually closed a contract with a large gas station chain, Quick Trip, in the Midwest there. And this was to do a whole bunch of, asphalt maintenance, infrared patching, crack sealing, and striping. And he needed somebody to manage that account. Well, here I come in, 18-year-old kid who I didn't even understand the concept of contracting to subcontracting. I didn't even know that was a thing. So, long story short, Brian ended up hiring me to manage that account. We did about $1 million in revenue that year with that account. And Brian and Mike went out to meet with the folks at Quick Trip after the fact. And they said, who is this kid that you have managing our account? Who is Eli? And Brian said, believe it or not, it's this 18-year-old kid who is, on our team, who happened to stumble upon our company. So throughout that time, that company ended up getting sold, and Brian ended up leaving and starting the Pavement Group. Now, what is the Pavement Group? Well, the Pavement Group is a national asphalt and concrete contractor. We take a technology-driven approach, and really we manage large portfolios of assets, of parking lot assets for customers who have hundreds or if not thousands of properties. We come in there, we've created an app, we've created all kinds of different technology that makes it easier for property and facility managers to manage their assets. Something that, 7 years ago, even 5 years ago, I had no idea was even a need, right? So Brian and Mike ended up calling me about 5 years ago when they started the Pavement Group and said, hey, we're looking for somebody to, join our team. There's only a handful of us right now working at the Pavement Group, and we would like you to be, ultimately the first, non-partnered employee. And immediately I said, I don't want anything to do with asphalt and concrete after working at the previous company. I was like, I'm done with this. There's a lot of headaches. I want to go work for a tech company. And, Brian and Mike convinced me to join the team. And I haven't even looked back. I started as a project coordinator. For the first couple of years, it was, wearing a lot of hats. We were a startup company. Ultimately, we were a startup tech company in a way. Sure, we were a contractor, but we're like a startup tech company. I was a project coordinator growing our contractor network. And, it was wearing a lot of hats. It was running projects, scheduling projects, working with contractors, doing all the things that, really you have to have a whatever it takes mentality to do those things. So through that process, I've learned how to manage accounts. I learned what pain points our customers deal with, and working with all these contractors. I ended up, jumping onto the sales team as soon as we started to grow. I was one of the first, salespeople. Grabbed some of my own accounts. Ended up starting to grow those. Really leaning on Brian as far as, how do you be a good salesperson? What do you do? How do you structure your day? What are the fundamentals? What are some of the things that I should know, on the day to day? How should I communicate with people? And through that process, I ended up, doing very well as a salesperson. Becoming the number one salesperson quick, and really becoming an asset to the Pavement Group. And just a couple years ago, I ended up, moving into the director of sales role, and now I oversee a team of incredible salespeople that we have on our team here at the Pavement Group. Folks that I am just so happy to work with every single day. Some of them even have their own shows here through One Team Media. So through that journey, I've learned so many things, right? We're going to break down all of that throughout the, next coming episodes of, the fundamentals, the tacticals, things that you guys can take away, after each episode, but also like the foundation of like how I got here and how somebody like you could get to this spot too. So for the first, question you should be asking is like, all right, like what does sales even look like? Like what is sales in 2024? When you think of sales, a lot of people think like social media influencers that are like trying to sell, stuff, shit, really. Like it's like, oftentimes they don't maybe believe in the product. They're sleazy in kind of ways. And that's honestly like the farthest from the truth if you make it that way. And what I mean by that is, you should really ask yourself, what am I getting into sales for? So I believe in a relational-driven sales process, right? So I'm a relationship person. I believe that relationships, and this is one of the biggest things I've learned throughout this entire journey, is relationships are literally the most important thing that I could ever keep, right? My relationship with you, my relationship with all my customers, contractors, my team, my wife, like everyone. It is the most important thing, because I can be there for those people that I have relationships with. They will be there for me. They'll be there to support me. They'll refer me to people. It just all works out when you have really strong relationships. And so we'll dive into in a couple of episodes on, how do you build strong relationships? But, the first thing first is like, you got to build strong relationships. And if you're just looking at sales as a transactional opportunity, well, then it's going to be transactional and you're not going to build a true business. So the first thing first is like, man, you got to be relational. You got to be in a relational sales opportunity. And that's also where the most leverage comes from, right? So when we look at sales, there's all kinds of different sales opportunities. You could be a mall kiosk salesperson. Well, that's not very high leverage, right? You're leaning on one person after another as they walk through, and it's a, at the end of the day, it's a very transactional opportunity, and there's not a whole lot of high leverage. You're not going to make a lot of money doing that, and you're probably not going to be the happiest, is my guess. But when it comes to a higher leverage opportunity, with higher ticket items, with more things that you're selling to a wider market, at the end of the day, it's like, man, relationships are everything. So that's the first thing. Like, why are you getting into sales? And can you be a relationship-driven person? Now, if you're just looking at it as the money, going, oh, that's going to be great, I want to make a whole bunch of money. Well, I would look deeper than that. Yes, you can make a lot of money as a salesperson, but let's start looking at the why. Like what I did a couple years ago, I wrote down the income goal that I wanted to make, and sales, again, it's a high leverage opportunity where you can make a lot of money if you do it right. And I looked at and I broke down every single dollar that I wanted to make that year. So, let's just say if your income goal is $200,000 you want to make in sales. Okay, great. That's great. Let's write down $200,000 and let's start to really break that. And I would encourage you to write this down as well in a notebook and really start to break down, all right, if I made $200,000, where would it actually go? All right, well, about half of that is going to go towards taxes. Unfortunately, there's no way out of that. So, write that down. For me, it was I want to give another 10% to my church. So, all right, let's write that down. It's, call it 20 grand. And now let's start breaking it down. Like, I want to buy a house for me and my wife so that we can eventually, have kids. I want to buy my wife a new car. I want to put X amount away into a savings account, into investments for the longevity of my future and my family's future. And so doing that, I found that when you break it down and you attach the money to something that is truly like, it's truly like something that is like in your heart, right? Like it's something that you can really attach it to. It's not just money. You come through hard, like you'll meet hard days as a salesperson, because there's gonna be days where you're gonna get all kinds of no's from people. You're gonna run into problems on projects, on jobs, etc. And you're gonna look at that sheet and you're gonna say, all right, listen, it's not just about the money that I can make or about the money that I want to make. It's about what that money can do. And I have each and every single dollar allocated specifically towards each of these things. I've got, $30,000 allocated to a car that I want to buy my wife. Well, why do you want to buy that car? Well, that why is because my wife freaking deserves it, right? Like I want to see that smile on her face as we pull out of the parking lot. I want to see that every single day because she supports me like crazy. And so, ultimately I wrote that down. I ran into hard days and I looked at that sheet and said, okay, it's not just money that I'm going after. It's something way deeper than that. There's a why attached to those dollars. So again, I would really encourage you to, look at why you want to get into sales. Look at the opportunity too. Like if you're looking to get into sales, and it's, it's a mall kiosk, something, like a mall kiosk type of sales, look at that. That might be a place to start. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what the opportunity is, but, really look at that and figure out like, is it actually high leverage? Is it a good spot to start? Candidly, I was never a door knocker, but a lot of people start as door knockers in sales. And I would encourage, I've heard a lot of people who have said that, door knocking has been a great place to start. Now, it's probably not something you're going to do forever. It's not a super high leverage opportunity unless you have a big team of people. But, I would really encourage you to look into different opportunities and look at like, is it something that is high leverage or can be high leverage? And is it going to get you to the point where, you're learning the fundamentals and the skills and the tactical things? Sales is like a muscle. You have to work on it every single day. You have to work on the fundamentals and the tactical pieces of it, and work it out just like you would normally in the gym as well. So, assess, why do you want to get into sales? And that is the absolute first question I would ask yourself. And are you willing to be a relationally driven person? The other piece of this is, I would say, stay curious. Stay curious as a salesperson. Always be learning. Always be, I'm not going to say always be closing. I know a lot of salespeople say that, but like always be learning, always be developing new relationships, and be open to new opportunities. Be open to, different thought processes that, people present to you. And at the end of the day, if you do stay curious, you're going to learn so many different things that, are just going to ultimately help you, and be willing to find a mentor, find somebody who can pour into you and learn from them. If sales isn't for you, well, let's figure that out quickly. And that's okay, by the way. If sales is not for you and you're tuning into this podcast, like, I don't really, this whole thing, it's a little, I can write my own paycheck, but also at the same time, it's kind of scary. Like, let's dive into it. Let's figure out if it is right for you. Let's figure out if your, tolerance for that opportunity is right. There are some people who, quite honestly, their personality types aren't fit for it, and that is okay. But if it is, then let's dive into that. Find a mentor. Find somebody who can pour into you. And without my mentors, honestly, I would not be at the place that I'm at, hands down. I learned so many things that have, that they've poured into me. I've been able to almost essentially skip ahead of the parts where they've made mistakes on. They poured into me. They told me, don't go down that path. Do this instead. and they've been able to course correct me throughout that. And from me being a sponge, I've been able to take those things and apply them and really follow their guidance. And so find a mentor, find somebody who is in a spot who ultimately you want to be in, and figure out, do their values line up with your values too? That's a big piece of finding a mentor, especially figuring out if you want to get into sales. Again, there's a lot of sleazy salespeople out there, unfortunately, and I would really encourage you to find somebody who has true values down to their core, good values. Not just somebody who's out there who's maybe is a good salesperson, has good word tracks, whatever. Find somebody who is like a relationally driven person. Find somebody who is willing to pour into you. And for me, that was both, really all three of them, Brian Hess, Mike Hugiem, and Todd Gurrell. Shout out to the three of you guys. You guys have poured so much into me, and I've been able to take all of that and soak it all up and really pour it into the rest of our team here and pour it into you guys. So find a mentor, stay curious. There's all kinds of different things, but just figure out if sales is right for you. And feel free to reach out to me too. I'm more than happy to have a conversation to figure out, is sales right for you? Is it not? I don't know. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out if your personality type fits it. So with that, guys, that is the second episode here of Sell the Truth. Again, at Sell the Truth, we put relationships first. We trust the process, and we are focused on a long-term time horizon. Next episode, I'm really excited for you guys. I'm going to try to bring somebody on as a guest as well. We're gonna continue to dive into each of these fundamental building blocks, and ultimately, guys, it's here to help you. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. It is Eli Store. Peace out.